Today it was announced that Kevin Franke is going to pursue legislation in Utah to ensure that people who assert themselves to be life coaches or mental coaches or whatever, that there has to be some level of certification or credentials behind it, because as it stands right now, pretty much everywhere, but definitely in Utah, you can say that you're a mental fitness coach, like Ruby was saying. And I think at the time Jody was saying that too, because she had trouble with her license. That anybody can just start giving people advice and do all kinds of damage. So I saw another video about this earlier this morning, but I was rendering the Foodie Beauty video that I covered, and so I put it off until later this afternoon. This is a different one. It just happened to come down my feed.
You know, it's not that often that we get some good news in these 8 Passengers videos, but today's video is a little bit different. Because due to the negative effects that Ruby and Jodie have had on people regarding their connections and their life coaching, I mean, with Jodie, it's been over a decade now, doing this coaching, ruin people's marriages, lives, and so on. Well, because of that, we might actually see a change in the law in Utah, and hopefully anywhere else that needs it. Because I've just came across this article by KUTV that was posted last night, and it says, 8 Passengers case leads Utah lawmakers to argue for better overseeing of life coaches.
One Utah lawmaker believes more needs to be done to oversee life coaches all across the state of Utah. It comes as the child abuse case against Ruby Franke and Jodie Hildebrand continues in court.
Yeah, I mean, clearly there had to be a change. The fact that Jodie and Ruby could be life coaches in the first place is mental. Especially Jodie, who actually had a counselling license suspended for a period of time because she literally ruined someone's life. And that's not to mention the countless other people who've also had their lives ruined by Jodie and Ruby. The fact that
But let's be real. It's not like Kevin is doing this out of the goodness of his heart, or that he felt like this was terrible, because he's been defending Ruby to this day, saying he's not going to say anything negative about her, so on and so forth, and he's laying the blame squarely on Jodie for what happened to his kids, despite the fact that he abandoned his family and was totally on board with everything that was going on with here. What this looks like to me is a man who's trying to recover his reputation.
He could be life coaches makes zero sense. But as soon as you hear that someone's got the title of like a life coach or a counsellor or a therapist, you automatically kind of trust them a little bit more, right? Just by that having their label, you almost want to trust their advice a little bit more, when in actual reality, if people like Jodie and Ruby can say that they're counsellors, therapists, life coaches, doesn't really mean much.
State Senator David Hinkins says Ruby Franke's own husband asked him to heighten restrictions on these coaches.
Yeah, so this is the most mental part for me. As you just heard there, it was actually Kevin's idea, or at least he brought it up, that there needs to be a change in the law for life coaches. Now, this could be for a few reasons. I'll let you decide which one it is, but it could be that Kevin is just such a nice guy and he wants to look out for everybody who could be affected by this in the future. Or it could be that he wants to come across as an angel because he is currently having a custody battle. He wants to come across as someone who has changed and has got a better mindset than Ruby. Or it could be the fact that he's just angry at Jodie for ruining his marriage. I mean, yeah, I'll let you choose.
It was Ruby Franke's...
No, it's because he wants to restore his reputation. But the thing is, long before any of this happened, he already had several bad reviews from his students at Brigham Young University. He was rated terribly by his students. And we already have all the video footage of him going right there along with the abusive discipline that Ruby was enacting long before she met Jodie, and starving her kids and things like that. He knew this was going on. So I don't know. I mean, I guess at this point, he's trying to make an argument that it wasn't me. I wasn't there. I was just brainwashed by this life coach bullshit. And I didn't realize that what was going on was bad. I didn't realize it could hurt my kids. Right? Right, Kevin?
Estranged husband, Kevin, who asked him to look into the qualification that it takes to become a life coach in Utah. As it turns out, there are no qualifications.
That is absolutely mental, isn't it? So anyone could just wake up one day and say that they're a life coach and create a service to start charging people for advice. That does not seem right. Obviously, this is in Utah. I don't know what the laws are in other places. Maybe this is the same.
Marky, why is all your footage backwards? Why is it all, like, seriously, this is shit you got off television or downloaded from somewhere. Why is it all reversed like that?
Case in the UK, I don't know. But if this is the case in the UK, I would be very worried. In fact, let me just give it a quick Google, let's see. As life coaching isn't a regulated profession, you don't need to have specific qualifications. However, if you're serious about becoming a life coach, consider taking specific training with providers accredited by coaching associations such as Association for Coaching. Yes, anyone can do it, even here in the UK, which is very worrying, and I guess you could say it's up to the person who's looking for a life coach to ask for the qualifications and see if the person they're about to speak to is actually qualified to do this job. But as we've seen with Jodie and Ruby, it's not always that simple. All it takes is for one person to be brainwashed by someone like Jodie Hildebrandt. They tell someone else, word of mouth, you know, they tell someone, they tell someone, they tell someone. All of a sudden there's a bunch of people that trust Jodie, and she starts giving out the worst possible advice and trying to ruin your life. It's pretty scary to say the least. And don't get me wrong, I don't doubt for a second that there are many life coaches out there who maybe don't have the qualifications, but are brilliant at their job. They've just learnt themselves, you know, researched it, read up on it, made themselves the best life coach they possibly can be, and probably give brilliant advice even though they don't have the qualifications. But, I mean, I feel like with something like this, it should be something where you do need some qualifications for it. That's just my personal opinion. And if you want...
This is quite literally how you can start a cult, by the way. You don't have to have any sort of credentials or, you know, training or whatever, but you can be like, let me tell you how life goes. Alright, let's set Indian style, put our hands out, and let me hypnotize you. And life is great. Life is good. You should tie your children down to the floor and duct tape their mouths. Sounds like a good plan, right? That's the best way to discipline them. This is literally how you start a cult.
Are brilliant at the job, you have your qualifications, it should probably be quite easy to get them, right? You would think.
If you look on the Connections Classroom website, you'll see accused child abuser Ruby Franke described as a, quote, certified mental fitness trainer.
It's just a title that somebody can make up and makes it sound professional when it's really probably not.
Oh, mad, so that doesn't actually mean anything. I've always wondered, like, what did Ruby do to get that title? I think I might have mentioned it in one of my first videos looking at Connections. Jodie Hildebrandt and Ruby Franke are mental fitness trainers with Connections Coaching. Mental fitness trainers? Are you sure? Yeah, I guess I didn't go that much into it, but I was clearly doubting it. Like, how are Jodie and Ruby mental fitness coaches? Makes zero sense.
26th Senator David Hinkins says Franke was allowed to use that title whether she took the courses or not.
I don't think there's anything that stops her from saying that. And I don't know that she's had any background training to be that.
That is crazy, right? I mean, it's one thing, that fact that you can just be a life coach without the qualifications, that's one thing. But the fact that you can say that you're a qualified or certified life coach or whatever the fuck she said on the website, the fact you can actually say that with no proof is mental. Because let's be honest here, if you don't know who Ruby Franke is, and you go on a website and you're looking for life coaches and you see that someone is a certified life coach, you probably are going to trust it because we're naive people, you know? I mean, to me, that is the first thing that needs to change. Like, I still believe that you should probably have your qualifications if you are going to be a life coach, but you definitely shouldn't be able to say stuff along them lines, use certain words that make you look like you're qualified when you're not. That should definitely not be allowed.
It started to feel more and more evil. And I finally, in one of the group meetings, I got up and I just said, this is off.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've spoke about this person in the past. Maybe we have read one of his statements on, like, Facebook or whatnot before. But yet again, it's another person who has been affected by Jodie Hildebrandt. And I mean, I can't even begin to imagine how many people actually have been affected by that woman.
Officials from the Utah Division of Professional Licensing sent a text saying, quote, "We do see some complaints that are against life coaches who are former licensed behavioral health practitioners who lost the license and are now practicing as life coaches." The text also said, quote, "Life coaches are not required to be licensed in Utah. Therefore, there are no standards for the industry."
I mean, surely that's wrong, right? Am I being stupid here? I mean, it's such an important job. Like, so many people rely on having, like, a life coach or a therapist or a counselor, and it can be their one place where they can be completely open and speak about their feelings. Might be the only place that they feel comfortable to do so. And if they're in this vulnerable state...
Well, and what's crazy, too, is she was charging these people, like, upwards of $2,000 a month when they could have gone to actual licensed psychiatrists and psychologists on their healthcare plans. So, like, what? Because I don't think that she was getting subsidized by any of the healthcare plans, right? She was getting subsidized by the LDS Church, though. And that's another question. Why were they involved? Why were they giving her referrals? And what's their liability in this?
And they get told some advice that isn't very good, there's a good chance that they are probably going to listen to it because they're in that state already, right? They feel like they can trust that person. So that life coach, counselor, or therapist needs to know what they're doing. It's such an important job that has big effects on people's lives. Right, let me just butt in a second as Future Callum editing this video. I do just want to say throughout this video, I mentioned life coaches, counselors, and therapists, and I don't want to come across as if I'm putting all of them in the same bracket saying that they're the exact same thing. What I am trying to say is that these three types of jobs are very important, and you have a big influence in any of these jobs, and in my opinion, you should have to have qualifications to do all three of these jobs, not just one of them or two of them. It should be the same for all of them. Just wanted to clear that up because as I was watching this back, I realised it made it look like I was saying all three of them are the same thing. That's not the case.
I think that those that are professing to be life coaches should have some type of a criteria that they need to some credibility.
I completely agree with that statement. Yeah, I would love to know your thoughts on this whole thing in the comment section down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is it not as simple as that? Just let me know your thoughts.
Some of these life coaches are actually very good at their job. However, there is a shortage of licensed mental health practitioners in Utah, which might be one of the reasons why so many people are turning to life coaches in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, and it's like I said earlier, I don't doubt for a second that there are many people who are life coaches that maybe don't have the qualifications who are really good at their job. But on the flip side, there are a lot of people who clearly aren't good at their job. We've got Mums of Truth or Connections, for example. There's a Netflix show currently about, like, twin flames that I was watching with my girlfriend, and I was kept saying, like, as I was watching it, I was like, this is so much like Connections and Mums of Truth. If you haven't already seen that, I do recommend it on Netflix, but it's a YouTube channel that is still running now, and it's a couple who give, like, life coaching advice, and their advice is all about trying to find your twin flame, like your soulmate, your perfect person to be in a relationship with, and they would brainwash these people and make them do a bunch of stuff that they just aren't comfortable with, but because they had the trust of the people, they did it. And like I mentioned, as I was watching this, I was like, this is so much like Connections. It feels like the exact same type of vibe. Now, in this article, we do have some more bits of information that I do want to read out that weren't in the video. They actually mention an example of a man who was affected by Jodie Hildbrand's advice previously that we haven't heard before. There was a man that had a successful business that believed he was a danger to his wife and his family because he did a double take. Like, if he saw a beautiful woman, he would see and look again. This guy got his own apartment and separated his family because he was a danger. And they've used this example after Trey Warner said the company would convince men that their impure thoughts made them a danger to their families. And we also have some updates on the bill itself, and it says Hinken says the bill is still in its infancy, and he plans on working with the Utah Division of Professional Licensing while drafting it. He doesn't want the bill to be so strict that it prevents people from giving their family members advice when they're asked to give it. I mean, yeah, obviously, right? But yeah, it looks like there is going to be some changes to the law in the state of Utah. Who knows? I highly doubt that Jodie Hildbrand and Ruby Franke will be allowed to do any of this life coaching stuff in the future. You would like to think that they wouldn't be able to. But yeah, like I mentioned before.
Well, I think they're going to be in prison for a long time. My guess is they will be sentenced to pretty much the max to be made examples of, but they'll get out early on parole, but they're going to be serving pretty long. If they serve anything less than 15 years each, I think people are going to be absolutely outraged. I mean, even 15, in my opinion, is not enough. They should at least be doing 30. in my opinion.
I would love to hear your thoughts down below on everything that we spoke about in today's video, and yeah, I'm going to leave it there. So if you did enjoy, please do leave a like down below, subscribe if you are new, and until the next one, I'll see you guys in a bit, alright? Goodbye.
There are a lot of things in life we want but can't have.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Seeing you got covered California here. I keep getting these ads because it's open enrollment. I've already handled mine, but it's open enrollment everywhere, but each state has its own marketplace. But this is where you get your mental health services, y'all, is by getting a health care plan. And supposedly there's health care available to everybody. If you're poor, you do it in California, it'd be like the Medi-Cal system, that you would get your food stamps and your health care and stuff like that. If you're making slightly above the bracket to be considered poor, you would use this system, Covered California, which I think goes up to everybody making up to like $75,000. And then outside of that, you're expected to just pay for it yourself or get it through your employer. So anyway, there are options available. And there's also actual, credentialed services on like college campuses, like community colleges and stuff like that, where all you'd have to do is like enroll in like one class. You could maybe take like an art class, and then you can get some health services from your college. But yeah, please don't just like talk to anybody if they're not credentialed. And if they say, well, I'm certified through XYZ company, not good enough. Not good enough. What do we know about these companies? What do we know about their teachings and their thought process behind life? You can't just have these, startup companies determining that it's okay to abuse children, and that in order to have a successful marriage, you have to separate the couple. This is also where the programs where they try and take gay children and make them straight. Because legitimate psychologists and psychiatrists are not going to do that to you. They're not going to do that to your kids. But life coaches probably would. Make good decisions, y'all. Be careful out there.